So the story begins in 1986, and the month is December 20th. 4 young Black men, Griffith, Sandyford, Grimes, and Sylvester, are driving from Brooklyn to Queens, New York. Now, on the way to Queens, their car breaks down, and before they know it, they have to look for help. Now, what do you think they do? Take out their smartphones to make the call? Absolutely not. It's 1986. So Griffith, Sandyford, and Grimes decide to go look for help, at least get a phone booth, or at least get a business that would allow them to make a call to be able to get help. Now, Sylvester is left in the car to watch over the car. Now, they walk 3 miles, and as they walk, so they walk 3 miles, and the walk takes them to a middle-class white neighborhood. While there, they meet up with 3 young men, all white, and they start shouting racial slurs at them. Now they continue walking, and at this time, they're simply just looking for a place where they can get a phone so that they can make a call. Now they enter a pizza place where they hope that the owner is going to help them with their phone and make a call. Unfortunately, he does not. Now, when they get up, they find that the 3 young men have been joined by a few others, and there's a crowd waiting outside, and they're shouting, and they're carrying all manner of weapons, and they attack the 3 young men, Griffith, Sandyford, Grimes. Grimes manages to escape. Now, Griffith and Sandyford are not as lucky. Sandyford is beaten up. Griffith, while trying to run for his life, crosses the highway. As he's trying to cross the highway, he's struck by a motorist and he dies. Now, when the police arrive, they arrest Sandyford, questions him instead of taking him to hospital. Well, he survives and Grimes survives, but Griffith does not. Now, following several years of outcry between 1986 and 1990, the Hate Crime Statistics Act is enacted. The act mandates the Federal Bureau of Investigations to collect data, report data on hate crimes. And while those efforts have been ongoing, hate crimes continue to rise. Attacks on people because of their race, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, national origin, gender identity, all these crimes continue to increase. As you can see, now between 2007 and 2013, there was a steady decline. But again, from 2014 to 2020, there was a rapid increase between in those 6 years. And those are the years of interest in my project. Now, why am I working on this project? Now, Unity for Humanity is a nonprofit, non-partisan organization that is involved in advocacy work and concerned about the rising hate crimes. They expand their advocacy to include advocacy for victims of hate crimes in the US. And as their first task is to first understand a few things. Now, they want to understand the trends and patterns of hate crime incidents in the US. Now, they also want to identify vulnerable communities and their identities. They also want to identify reporting gaps in the already existing data. Now, this would enable them engage in evidence-based advocacy. They would also be able to know what kind of efforts would go to support who, and then also to determine what kind of strategic partnerships they would have and with who. So to help them in these efforts, I built a dashboard. I got data from the from the FBI website, and I created a data dictionary. I had 3 tables. I joined the calendar. I created relationships between the crime location, that is the state, and the calendar table with my master table, which is the fact table that contains all the statistics on hate crimes. Now, also created key performance indicators using DAX for depth analysis. I had 3 KPIs and 3 sub KPIs, as you can see here. Now, this is the completed dashboard. On my dashboard comprises several charts. Now, one of the major difficulties that I had when I started creating this dashboard was simply just determining what dimensions to include and which ones not to include, considering that all the information contained was very important. So that was one of the major challenges. So as you can see from my dashboard, I have the KPIs and the sub KPIs. I also have a variety of charts, stacked column and line charts to track the crime over time. I also have a waterfall chart there, and to analyze hate crime by state, I included a map. As I mentioned before, some of the problems that I encountered, one of them being just determining what dimensions to include and which ones to leave out. Now, the other thing was working on DAX isn't always easy. And so I had a few challenges working on my DAX formula to make sure that the calculations that I came up with were going to provide the kind of insights that would be helpful to Unity for Humanity. Now, some of the negative insights, as you can see, you can see from here that hate crime incidents increased over time. Now, in 2020, hate crimes increased 30%. Violent hate crimes increased 30.8% compared to 2019. In 2019, as you can see there, hate crimes increased by 10.1%, and violent hate crimes increased by only 3.3%. So you can see that rapid increase between 2019 and 2020. In terms of months, over time, it seems June has the highest rate of crimes, both violent and non-violent. When you compare, and it actually looks like the entire summer, June, July, and August, when you compare that, first looking at that, you can see 20.8% increase in hate crimes in June. Now, when you compare that with May, you can see that the increase was in single digits. Another negative insight that I would like to highlight is the location, especially the state that saw the highest rate of hate crime, which is California. Now you can see very rapid increases here, especially in violent hate crimes in 2017, and then again in 2020. Now we could possibly start thinking about the political environment at that time, whether we're talking about COVID or we're talking about elections in both years, which would definitely call for further investigation. Now, what is most disturbing when you look at California is the rise in hate crimes, especially targeting or crimes that are motivated by gender and gender identity bias. Even though race and ethnicity register the highest rate of crime, the highest increase is seen here in gender and gender identity bias. Now, looking at the offenders, you will notice that most of the offenders identified here are Asians. And so the question would be why this particular community when it comes to gender and gender identity bias crimes. Now, just to get a little more in depth, we see here in California, especially in 2020, gender and gender bias motivated crimes increased by 100%. And then the perpetrators reported as Asians, the increase was 400%, which is pretty significant. For positive insights, New York registers the lowest rate of crime. Now, over time, you can see that there has been a steady decline in terms of reported crimes. You can see the fluctuations there, but again, the question of gender and gender identity bias crimes comes up again, which would be of concern. Now, the last thing that I want to highlight is the fact that a lot of the offenders are unknown. So you can see here that the violent crimes committed by the race or the ethnicity of the offenders is unknown. So following those few insights, I have a few recommendations to make. We have noted that there has been a steady increase in hate crimes over time, and especially in 2020, when there is a rapid increase of 35.5% compared to an increase in 2019 of 10.1%. My recommendation would be for Unity for Humanity to collaborate with people on the ground to offer education that is culturally appropriate, and especially focusing on diversity and inclusiveness, and to sensitize members on what exactly hate crimes are, and to create mechanisms for safe reporting, such as installing and increasing hate crime reporting hotlines. As far as the issue of gender and gender identity bias is concerned, and noting that there has been rapid increase in crimes motivated by gender and gender identity, and especially among the Asian community, I would suggest that the authorities and that Unity for Humanity partners with authorities and leaders on the ground, especially in California, to provide education on gender-based violence, and such education should be linguistically and culturally accessible. Now, lastly, noting that a lot of the perpetrators of crime are unknown, I would recommend comprehensive documentation of all hate crimes. That would help identify if there are any groups that are any hate groups or individuals that need to have action taken upon them. Thank you.